I'm calling this Unleashing the Power of HGS Investor Software, and as I'm going through the software and updating everything, I'm discovering new things. I've said this before and I'll continue to say it. Every day I'm learning something more about the software. Every day that I really delve into it, and it's amazing how powerful it is. If you have friends, especially younger friends that want to get involved with the software, why don't you refer them to this webinar series because they can learn a lot about the software and about prospecting for stocks, ETFs, and reading the market. So let's go ahead and get started today. I'm going to get that out of the way, and I'm going to take you up to the top. By that I mean I'm going to go into the designer, and I'm going to show you what I've been cleaning up for market analysis. Now, when you upgrade or update the software with the new webinar files, this is all you're going to have for market analysis user groups. I got rid of a lot of user groups that I never looked at, and I would bet most people never looked at them. So it's going to be very limited. But what I'm trying to do is simplify it for me, for you, for anybody who uses the program, because it can be a very complicated piece of software. But that's what happens when you have a powerful program. Now I'm going to go into my Major Markets Plus folder. This is the file that's downloaded, and I'm going to click through to a warehouse view. I'll open up my quick pick, and in this very first folder I have eliminated what I don't ever use, and these are the views that I'm using now. I'm primarily using these two: top-down analysis indexes and ETFs end of day. I have not updated from last night. I haven't done any intraday updates of the indexes. So this is what it looked like last night. And the reason I'm simplifying this is I want to be able to go down quickly to see what is happening not only with the major markets but with ETFs and indexes, which are generated by HGSI. So I'm going to just click on here. So I'm in Major Markets Plus, which includes the ETFs. Now I'm going to drop down to the major ETFs and ETNs. So just by staying with the same view, I can drop down to the ETFs and ETNs, and I'm not resorting. I'm just staying on here because it's sorted on the percentage price change. So I can quickly see when I go back up to the Major Markets Plus that the Philadelphia Semiconductor Index is at the top of the list, and just go down the list and see where the strength was yesterday. And then when I go down to the next one, major ETFs and ETNs, you can see an ETF, semiconductors, is on the top, but you can just quickly scroll down here and see where the strength was yesterday and where the weakness was. Now the next folder to go down to will be the broad market indices. These are all of the indexes, and what's on the top? The semiconductor indexes, and then transports, industrials, S&P 100, and so on. Small cap 600s were lagging yesterday. And then I can go down to the sectors by industry, see where the strength was in the sectors. Technology index, and then I can, if I want to, I can right mouse click. It'll take me down within the technology sector to the individual indexes within that, and once again, what's on top? Semiconductors, and then infrastructure, software, and so on. What's the weakest within that sector? Other hardware or office electronics. So you can see I'm trying to make it a lot more intuitive. And then just go down to the HGSI indexes. This is last night. I haven't rebuilt these yet. Yesterday, the apparel, footwear, and so on, but semiconductor devices were next, and so on. I'm going to drop down to the next level. These are the sector ETFs, the spider sectors. These are the familiar symbols, XLK, XLP, and so on. What's on top? Technology. What's a theme I can get in about a minute? I know exactly where the strength was, and I know where the weakness was. These are the ETF sectors expanded, a longer list so you get a broader feel for what's going on. And here's what I call a world view. Here's Brazil, Latin America, South Africa, Mexico. All of this is contained within the software, and you can get a read on what's going on not only in the United States, but all over the world. And these are the most popular, most liquid ETFs. It says most popular ETFs. The Ultra Pro QQQ 3x 3x ETF was number one yesterday at up 2.1%. And then on down the list, I don't have to go through every one of these, but you can see what all's in here. And I'm just making it much more easy to get through this list because I'm not changing anything. Now let's go down to the next one, which is intraday. So on the intraday, you can see what's going on here. The S&P 100's on top. If I drop down, let's just go down to the most popular ETFs. Once again, it's the Ultra Pro QQQ3X. It's up 1.37%. No, that's a price change. Here's the percentage price. 4.31% today. So that's following up on yesterday's move. Now, I want to point out that I'm standardizing my views. I haven't gotten through all of them yet. It's kind of a massive job because I have to go in and rearrange these warehouse views. There are a couple of fields anyway. But what I'm trying to do on all of them is put the relative strength rank in here from HGSI, and then the Kirkpatrick relative strength rank, which is based upon a 26-week moving average of closes. So I can quickly see the strength and compare the two relative strengths. And then here's price movement and so on. But I'm also getting into these views, and I do have a wider monitor. Your monitor may not show all of this at the same time, but I can look at the Ultra Pro QQQ, for example. Was there a VPA signal? Yes, that's what this column is. What was the signal? Effort to rise, and the day before was effort to rise also. So when I bring this up, before I even bring it up, I can see that the prior 2 days, let me open up my drawing tool here. Here's this effort to rise. I should be using a different color. And then here's yesterday's effort to rise. So this is with an ETF. This works the same way with stocks. It's very easy to see immediately when you're prospecting if there is a VPA flag to go along with the movement. And then this over here, this is last night's information. The volume was above average, the spread was wide, and the close was very high. Very bullish. And then my columns here, which are really invaluable because it tells us how old the signal is. This signal happened 28 days ago. Now, if I had been smart 28 days ago and noticed that signal, that is something that provided an entry point, and that 28 days is right here. And look what happened. Let me make this full screen. So there was no supply, VPA the day before. On this day, there was not a VPA flag. It's updating. No VPA flag, but what was there? There was a 3 crossing the 6. So there's multiple ways to get signals, including crossovers and VPA flags, and also pocket pivots. Now, volume pocket pivots, I use these differently than Gil Morales and Catcher do. I mean, they look for true pocket pivots. The way I'm using these, and I've explained this, but I will again, whenever there's blue bars here, it means the volume on these days is higher than any down volume the prior 5 or 10 days. So if you look at this, you can see these 3 bars. Any down days or down volume days, these surpass all of those. That's why there are blue lines on there. So it's just another aid. And then we have the volume point of control down here at the bottom. When it turns green, it's also a buy signal. So there's lots of ways to find what's going. Thanks, Tom. Yeah, well, I'm really trying to simplify it for me and for you, because it's. I mean, I've had a lot. There's a lot of stuff in there that I just really want to clean up, because I'm not planning on redoing these files in the future. I hope. I just want to get it to a point where everything is simple, and you know where to look, and then you just go with it. Okay, so that's market analysis. Easy for you and me. End of day, and intraday. Now, well, here, let me do one more thing. I want to go into these, look at these broad market indices, and this was yesterday. Now, I'm just going to do this. I'm going to close this warehouse view. Let's just go into these broad market indices. I'm going to rebuild the indexes in this group. It won't take very long, and let's see what these indexes are telling us today. So these are what I'm rebuilding. Now this next one here, number 4, contains more things, but I didn't want to take the time to rebuild it while I'm recording. This doesn't take long. Can you hear me okay? Good. Thanks, Tom. And John and Tom. Okay, we're almost done here. So these have not been updated since last night. And like I said, when I'm not recording, this goes faster too. See what it's doing? It's going down into each of the sectors here too. So the broad market indices, now I'm going to just click back on the warehouse view, and this is where we are today. Sorted on raw combo, top-down analysis, indexes, and ETFs. This is end of day. These are going to, you use the end of day view because there's no intraday for these indexes. I mean, when they're rebuilt, the day is, this represents today is what I'm trying to say. Look at this, utilities are on top, and the industrials are second, the transports are third. Interesting. And the SOX is taking a day off, it looks like, down here at minus 0.05. Okay, so I just wanted to take a look at that and see where we are. But you can see that it rebuilt all of the industries too. So if I change to the industry group here, these are the industries today. And can this be right? The coal operations index is number 1, consumer goods rental number 2. So what this is telling me is that the market is widening out on this strong up day. The NASDAQ futures, I'm looking at another computer, they're up 210 points right now. Just out of curiosity, the comp is up 179. So, but it looks like based upon these indexes that it isn't just semiconductors. Let me see if I can. I don't know if I can search on this. No, it's not coming up. I don't want to search them out though. Well, here I can do this quickly. Just do alphabetical and then reverse this. Let's see where the semis are. Let's do the devices and then sort on raw combo. Clear down here at number 162 today, so the semis are taking a break. Okay, so that's interesting. But you can see how you can look at the market intraday and end of day just by rebuilding these indexes. Yes, it takes a little bit of time, but you really get a feel for where the strength and weakness is. Okay, now, since I know the industries have been rebuilt already, what I'm going to do is I'm going to rebuild the user smart groups. And the reason I want to do this is I want to go to this view in my files and see the stocks that the top 100 stocks that come in. Okay, I just turned the U.S. Open golf tournament on. I'll try not to watch it. This golf is such a mess anymore with what's going on. Okay, so I'm in industries. I want to get to all securities. The fastest way there is to hold your alternate key and hit the space bar. See how it takes you to all securities. And now I can go into my webinar series and go down to number C. These are stocks and groups up and down intraday. These are $15 and above. And this is sorted. I'm getting some feedback here, but I don't know what it is. It doesn't seem to bother too much. Anyway, here, what did I say was number one when we looked at the indexes? Coal operations. And here's Warrior Met Coal on top. Here's the industry group. And this stock is on top. Now let's look across here. Last night the volume was above average, but the spread was below average, and the close was down, and it was negative on the 3 crossing the 6. But as I go across here today, I can see the percentage price change is up 3.82%, and there was no VPA flag. So let's look at this chart. Now, I'm not crazy about this chart. Why? Because it's so loose, it'll drive you crazy. It's not the type of chart I look for, but you can see why it came to the top of the list. It's got a long white candle, and it's got a test for supply that's generated today. But what's the context of this? Well, the context is it's in a very loose environment, and for it to really tighten up and take off, I just wouldn't trust that to happen. So I would not be interested in this stock. You can see short-term resistance is right here. It's tried to go up several times, and it's failed every time it's gotten up. Well, it got up in this area and failed here, failed up here too. It's just a very volatile stock. So I'm not interested. Let's go a little further down the list and just let's go down until we find one here with a bullish VPA signal. And if I look back, it's Microsoft. Less than average volume, above average spread, and a high close yesterday It crossed over 3 days ago, the 3 crossing the 6, and the same for the volume point of control. 87 RS, 95 on Kirkpatrick, up 331 percentage today, trading at 93% of its daily range. Technology, we all know that. We all know Microsoft had an effort to rise. So let's take a look at the chart. Compare this chart to the last chart. Obviously, this is a stock that's trending up, but even when it wasn't trending up like this, yeah, it was a little loose back in here, but it isn't anything like that Warrior Met coal was. We have to go back and see what the market was doing. This is back in February, because as I've mentioned, and you already know this, the market influences stock movement by 50 or 60%. And look how this stock has taken off and is a leader. I'm going to take the crosshair off for a minute, and I'm going to bring up a drawing tool or an arrow, my disappearing arrows. So what happened here? Let's go back here. There was a volume pocket pivot there, and there was no VPA flag. This is in a real congestion area here. So the context and the risk, it's a relatively low risk trade because it's finding support in this area here. But, you know, of course I'm looking in the past. But when it's tight like this, there's kind of an agreement on whether the stock is going to go one way or the other. It's because it's tightened up here. And then where did the break come? Okay, right here on this, we have a pocket pivot, and the following day, there is your 3 and 6 day crossover. And then, of course, it went up and pulled back. And these pullbacks, this is why you want to try to, if you can, buy them when they're coming out of one of these areas like this. Now, just because there's a crossover of the 3 and the 6 and pocket pivots and volume point of control and everything, doesn't mean it's going to follow through. We don't know that. But what we can do, all we can do, is do our setup risk and put a stop in if you use stops, and I think you should use stops. There's always controversy about that, but whenever I haven't used stops in the past, I've gotten hurt, so I generally use them. But when I do set up, I try to give myself leeway so my stops aren't going to get hit. I'm just going to do this very quickly. I don't want to spend a lot of time on this. But once again, I want to point out this tool since I'm illustrating this chart here. Oh, I have to go back to this. I don't have control unless I click on the arrow. Okay, so going back right here, it's very simple to do. Just click on the R tool, and I've got black up here. I need to change that to yellow. And then I can adjust this. So back at this point, if this were taken, let's say right in here, or this day right here, the stop would be down here below this, and then you know your exact risk. And you just leave it in place, and you can trail it along. If you trail it along, probably get stopped out here or up in here, but then when it gaps open, and this is on earnings news, yeah, you miss the gap here, but if you're stopped out, if it trails here, then you still have an opportunity to get back in. So every one of these pullbacks on these charts like this is really a buying opportunity. Like I said, you don't know if it's going to keep going or not, but if you like a stock, you know how to control your risk, and you just let it go. Okay, I want to show you something else here. Now, these pocket pivots or efforts to rise. These are all I considered really strong buying opportunities. Now I want to show you a chart that I've put in here. I've had this chart in for a long time. I just moved it up into my daily analysis charts, and only under the white because the colors don't show up for the black. But this is what I call my continuation of demand or supply visual filter backtest charts. And whenever there is a continuation move, and let me click on this, it generates green bars, or if it's a continuation move to the downside, it generates a magenta bar. So visually, you can come back and check on any stock and see if there were continuation signals. The reason I have a continuation scan, and I'm going to show you that here in a few minutes, is because you don't always get in when you want to get in. But I want to see where there is demand or supply continuing on a stock. And that is why I put this continuation scan in and the VFB or visual filter backtest to see where these occurred. Any questions about that? Okay, I have this one, and then the one down, I also included the 3-day crossovers. The dark red is a crossover to the downside. The dark green is a crossover to the upside. Generally, these work, these visual filter backtests on the crossovers, but sometimes it may miss them, but generally no. Okay, now let me see if I can find one. I'm looking for an effort to rise here without a corresponding pocket pivot right here. Okay, on this day, the filter that I use in this continuation scan requires either an effort to rise or a pocket pivot. See, there's no pocket pivots here because there's no blue line, but there's an effort to rise here, and an effort to rise here today. So these are generating continuation visual filter backtest. It's just a nice way to check a stock. While I'm at it, just out of curiosity, let's look at, you can just type any stock in here. Let's see what it looks like for NVIDIA. Okay, here's NVIDIA. You can see NVIDIA was really choppy through here. Crossovers in both directions, but this run right here, you can see where the 3 crossed the 6 right here on this day. And then there were pocket pivots, and then there were all kinds of efforts to rise as this stock moved up. So on a stock like this, if you miss it here, there's always opportunities. Now, if you don't want to chase it with a lot of capital, I like to play debit spreads because I know I can go in there and risk $250, not worry about buying on a day where the stock drops 10 points and you lose several $1,000s. So that's the way I like to play those and go out about 30 days or plus. I'm going to take a drink. Any questions? All right. Since there are no questions, let's move on. Okay, so looking down this list, you can see where the strength is, what's moving today. You can see how old the signals are. If you want to only look at stocks that have VPA signals, you click on this one right here, and it shows me AON had a effort to rise yesterday. Here's another stock with effort to rise. Let's just bring this up. Here's the effort to rise. Here is an effort to rise here. Here was a crossover day back here. So you can see where the continuation VPA flags are generated by using this chart. I generally don't use this chart because it's too colorful. too distracting. But if you want to check, go back and check and see where the signals were. It's a very nice chart to use. Let's look at one more here. APAM, Asia Partners Asset Management, don't know anything about it. I can see yesterday it was very high, above average high. Crossed over 9 days ago on both of them. Relative strength is 83. It's up another 164% today. Their effort to rise, let's look at it. Wow. Now there is a stock where if you missed the move, there were many opportunities to get in. Look at this here. Now let's go back to that other chart I was looking at. It's just right up here. 4 and 5 under the white. And look at the continuation here. Right here. And then there was one down day. Not down, it was an up day, but it was a weak candle, so it didn't generate. And it generated positive volume pocket pivots the rest of the way up. So an opportunity to get in on a stock like that. So this chart is handy. Okay, now I'm going to go back to my black chart. Well, I'm doing the wrong thing here. Clicked on the wrong thing. So let's go back. Let's just go to number 2 here. All right, now let me show you another thing or two about this. I'm going to go back to my sort, and it's on the industry group, and these are stocks 15 and above. These are stocks 15 and under. If you like to play the 1 to 15, and here we get a different look, of course, because cheaper stocks. You can see oil and gas services are moving, some internet-based services, communications equipment, and so on. Some airlines down here that are below 15 bucks. These other two views, and I haven't talked about these at all yet. First of all, I'm in the C folder. Now, it's the same stocks here, except I'm going to be using a different combo. These are called demand, stocks up, user smart groups, $15 up, intraday demand. By sorting on that, it resorts this according to demand. And you can see that Adobe is in great demand today. They reported earnings today, I think. They either did or they're going to report, but out to an all-time high. You can see that this crossed over clear back here. Let's make it full screen. Clear back here with an effort to rise. And the fan was down, but volume was above average there. And then here's a confirmation bar. Here's 2 confirmation bars here. So these are all, continuation bar. There would be continuation bars here if I go to that other chart. So many opportunities to get into this. Very expensive stock, though. So once again, if the options are liquid enough, this is one of those where you could get into debit spread. Now here's one I was in. I sold it today. I bought it 2 days ago, and I put a 50% profit target in on my spreads, and I just put it in, and it got filled today. And I guess I could have gotten more out of it, but I'll take 50% in 2 days any day of the week. I didn't buy enough of them, but that's the way it goes. At least I was in. Now you can see that this is number 2 based upon demand today. This was an earnings disappointment, but there was a no supply here, and then the effort to rise happened yesterday. Actually, I think I bought it yesterday, not the day before. I'd have to go back and look. So if you want to find out where the demand is in these views, the C views, just click on these two. These are 1 in 15 stocks based upon the most demand. Now here's a stock that's up 29.96% today, biotech. Look at this, a flag. I guess you consider this a flagpole and a flag. It's a $2 stock here, but nice move today. Let's look at one more. Here's one AAOI, that's a name out of the past. Wow. It's cheap stock, but if you don't look at the price sometimes and let that psych you out, there are a lot of opportunities in these cheap stocks in the $1 to $15 range. It was going down. Here's the crossover right here. Put the crosshair back on. Followed by the 618 crossover in an effort to rise. This effort to rise coming off of these low areas is often a really good signal. And look at this thing go. Just for fun, if you use your alternate and A keys, you can bring these annotation tools up. You click on the line. Okay, the signal was here. Let's just go from this point up to where it currently is. And I'm going to look down here at the bottom. It's up 121% in 13 periods. That is a massive move on a cheap stock. Now, I've been in and out of this stock in the past. It's been a while. I don't think I ever made any money on it. I guess my timing has been horrible. But I wasn't using the 3-6 crossovers and the efforts to rise back then either. Okay, now these are the upside for those of you who may want to short. Here's the downside. Just what's down today? Lodging, leisure clubs, professional services. Here, I told you earlier that the semiconductors were down because we looked at the group. Here they are, right here. The devices. Let's go to the down to the 1 to 15. Precious metal and mining, biotech. There's so many biotech stocks. They're always up and down. But just a quick, I really like this. If you want to see what's happening during the day, you just have to come in here, rebuild the smart groups, rebuild your indexes first, and then do the smart groups, and then they'll be sorted according to industry. Now, let's just look at the intraday supply. This is just the reverse. You can see that going down the list, these stocks are down. The ones that are down the most are on top. Let's go to the 1 to 15. Here's one that's down 3.98%. I don't need to dwell on that, I guess is the correct word. Okay? Now, let's do something else. I told you about that continuation filter, scan. Now, I have these scans under my name. These are scans that I use all the time in the past. Now, some of them, well, they're all still good. They're all still really valid. I just want to, let's go to the continuation first, and then I'll go back and cover a few more of these for the rest of this session. But number 6 is the continuation indicator. The VPOC 1010 is up, the 3 is greater than the 6, and there's a pocket pivot. Not only a pocket pivot, there can be an effort to rise. I don't have that in the title. But let's look at the intraday version of this, okay? Same number of stocks, 421 out of all securities. And intraday, the same, 421. I'm going to show you how you can cut your list down in a hurry, though. So here's GSIT technology. There's that AAOI I just talked about. Let's look at this one, GSIT. So this is a continuation. And let's go to that continuation chart. I'll use this one without the cross. Well, I'll put the crossover one up. It's number 5. Crossover happened clear back here before this big move. But this is a stock that is showing continuation. It showed continuation here. For some reason, it didn't generate on this effort to rise. I don't know why. But this one and the pocket pivots, I'll check that out. There may be something wrong in the filter there. But anyway, you can see that it is working most of it. I don't want to take the time to look at it right now. I'll do that after I shut down the webinar. Okay, LPI financial modeling. You can see here's the continuation. Very loose chart in here. I don't like that. The setup isn't great. I really prefer stocks where the fan is up or starting to move up that way and tighter. I don't mind buying a stock if the fan is down, but I'd like to see it tight. It's too easy to lose money on loose charts, I guess is the way to say it. So this is continuation, but what if I don't want to look at all these stocks? What if I just want to go look at the major stuff? So let's go into the major market index components, and let's look at the Dow. Which of the Dow stocks are showing continuation intraday? Well, we've already looked at Microsoft. Here's Cisco, here's Intel, here's Walmart. So I've narrowed my list tremendously just by going into a folder here. And I don't need to look at 400 and some stocks. I might take a look at them just to see what's on top, but I don't need to look at all those stocks. I'll look here at Cisco. Now here's a stock. I said I don't mind looking at these stocks, especially if they're starting to tighten up. I mean, this was a free fall, and then there was a no supply. Here's your crossover. This here would have been stopped out more than likely if you're taking that trade because of this opening gap down. But, you know, those are the chances. Those are the risks you take. One thing about trading those debit and credit spreads, and primarily debit spreads, either bullish or bearish, if you're in a spread and you get a day like this, it's not going to knock you out. It's not going to bother you unless you have a stop in. And I don't put stops in. I put sell stops in when a target is reached, but I don't put stops in below because these things can happen and knock you out of a position. Okay, let's look at Intel. See, this is pretty ugly here, and then the big gap up, and this turned positive. This was on earnings, I believe. Couple days up, and then a shakeout, and then the continuation started right here. Let's go to transports. There are several transports that are in the continuation scan today. What are the industries? Airlines, 3 airlines. Tells me that airlines are really strong today. Or they're maybe not really strong, they're strong. Doesn't look like big. Well, JetBlue is down today, actually. But these continuations are based upon the prior day. Okay? Utilities, none. NASDAQ 100. 20 stocks that generated continuation signals yesterday. Out of those 20, 16 of them are up today, and only 4 of them are down. So it gives you a quick list of stocks that you can look at in the morning, and hopefully, buy them if they're not too extended. Let's take a look at Autodesk here. It's an expensive stock. But right here was your first buy signal with the 3 crossing the 6, the pocket pivots. Big move up the next day. Here's a continuation here, and another continuation here. Big money flowing into this now. Anyway, my point is you can really limit what you're looking at just by going in here. Now, these semiconductors, these all had continuation yesterday, but you can see that, and we already know the semis are weak today, or weaker. But this will show you which of those that generated a continuation yesterday are following through today. And it looks like coherent is following through the most. Okay, look at this. Let's analyze this. Right here was the crossover day coming off of here. Before the crossover day, there were 1, 2, 3, 4 signs of, or VPA flags. Stopping volume here never did get below this stopping volume, did it? It went back up and pulled back, and then strength seen returning, no supply, strength seen returning after a downtrend, confirmation of that strength with a 3-6 crossover, and right here you can see it there, and then it really hasn't looked back. Continuation, continuation, continuation. Okay, here's a good example of continuation with an effort to rise VPA flag with no volume pocket pivot down here in this window. All right, let's go a little further. Let's go down here or up here. Let's say you want to go into custom groups. You can look at the HGSI top 50 if you want to. And this shows you the continuation flags from yesterday. Or if you're an option trader and you want to go to the CBOE 300 most active options, you click on that. These were all continuation filters. Continuation signals, I should say. Now, I want to go back and go back to, I'll cover all these later. I'm not going to have time to do it today, and I'm going to maybe wind down even a few minutes early. But what I want to do is go back to C, stocks up, $15 and up. I'm in the CBOE 300 most active options. I can click on that, and I'm in this folder right here, which is under custom groups. And these have most of the stocks and ETFs are the same, but there are some slight differences. That's why they're both in there. So if you're an options trader, let's take a look at Snowflake here. Okay, here's Uber. These are the ones. Remember, this is current information. This is from rebuilding the user smart groups. So these are the stocks that are up today. We know that because they were, well, it's updating every 5 minutes. So these are pretty current prices here. Let's just take a look. Let's look at Uber. I can't believe that this stock has made a move like this, but it has. And that's why it shouldn't have predefined judgments about a stock, I guess. Anyway, let's look at Uber. Let's say you pick this up this morning or somewhere in this area, and you're looking to maybe buy it. You can buy it outright. Well, I'm going to quickly just take a look at the ER. And I just quickly went over to Thinkorswim so I can get a snapshot here of 4 different views, the weekly, the daily, the 78-minute, and the 16-minute. So here's this morning at the open. Well, here on the 16-minute, there was a big move up, and then it started going. So at some point in this area would be a good place to buy, or you could even consider looking at a debit spread. Now, at some point in this webinar series, I'll spend some time on debit spreads. You're not going to be an expert, but you'll learn what I do. But let's just look at Uber here. Look at about 36 days out. And you can see the bid ask is pretty tight on these 246 bid, 249 ask. There's good volume and good open interest on here. So you can just hold your control key, click on the buy side or the ask side. And this is a 2.5 point spread here at $1.16. And my cheat sheet says I can spend up to $1.30 for a 2.5 point spread, and it's under $1.13. It's $1.13. So if I click on risk profile, it shows me right here where the current price is, where my break even is, what I can make 136 or what I can lose 114 if it went to expiration. Now I would buy enough. I would buy 2 of these to get up in the 250 area if I want to risk 250. But I have it all right here in front of me, and I know that by looking at where I am, 43.32, it's got to get up to 43.64 to break even at expiration. But down here it shows you the delta, which means that for every point that moves up, this is going to increase in price $38.45. Or if it goes the other way, it's going to fall that much. Anyway, I don't want to spend time on this now, but I will do a session on that, or at least part of a session, if you're interested. Okay? And we can talk about that. I think most people probably would like to do that because it's a relatively, and I say relatively, safe way to trade. Nothing is safe in the stock market. We know that. Okay, so where was I here? I'm back. I'm back here. And let's go to the 1 to 15. There are even stocks trading in the 1 to 15 range that are in the 300 most active CBOE or Chicago Board Option Exchange most active options. The other one is the Option Clearing Corporation. What are there? 4 in here. And CBOE has 5, so you can see there's a slight difference. That's why I checked both of them. But if you're looking to trade options, this is a good place to find them by going in here. On the downside, $15 and up, these are all down. Well, this one's up now because it must have just changed since the update. Let me hit the F5 key. Oh, it didn't change it. Now it's up there. Oh, I see. It's in the down user group over here, not in this one. All right, forget it. Anyway, Super Microcomputer, this has been a massive stock. It's pulling back a little bit today, but looking at this continuation chart, look at all the opportunities on this stock. I watched this stock go up and didn't do anything about it, but let's just take a quick look. I'm going to quickly go back to Thinkorswim, SMCI. It's updating right now, just a second. Okay, SMCI. And let's analyze, add simulated trades. Not a bad spread, 40 cents. Let's just look at this. What is this? These are $10 wide, though, because this is an expensive stock. As they get more expensive, the strikes get wider, generally. I'm going to click on Control. So that puts my spread down here, $4.55 for a $10 wide spread. I can pay up to $5.20, so it's within the range. So I look at the risk profile. Now, though, on a $10 wide spread, the minimum commitment I'd have to put up more margin, and I could lose $4.55 if I wrote it out to the end, which I would never do. And if you look here, see it says 460, on this line. Up here it says 540. So the risk reward, there's more reward than risk on this one. This wouldn't be a bad trade if this stock keeps going up. Kind of fun. It's easy to do. It's you're not risking a whole bunch of money. You can sleep at night, or I can sleep at night. And at my age, I'm more risk averse. So that's just the way it is. Anyway, the hour is almost over, and I really don't have much else to cover in this. But in future webinars, we're going to be going over more of the scans. I'm going to be standardizing the views like I have here. And thanks, Tom. And more standardization. It's going to be mostly going forward. It's going to be about prospecting, looking for entries, and we'll do that debit spread class. I think everybody wants to do that, and we'll see how far this goes. I don't know how far it'll go. Thanks, John. Any questions? If not, let's all wish Paul the best, and I'll keep you posted as I learn new things.